So what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a 2000 Ford F350 Power Stroke. Now this truck is 20 years old and I want to do a quick background before we get into the video. Now I'm not sure if you guys know this, GM was actually the first manufacturer to put a diesel motor inside of their heavy duty trucks. It was a 6.2 liter Detroit V8 also, so that was a pretty big motor. Now it did not have any turbocharger, it was just a diesel engine. So it was putting out all that power naturally aspirated. Not long after GM came out with their 6.2 liter Detroit, Ford decided they had to come out with something to compete with it. So they decided to create the 6.9 liter indirect injected engine that was created by, you guessed it, International. Now as I mentioned, these diesels did not have forced induction, but in 1993 it was later added on the Ford. Can you guys guess why Ford decided to add it? I'll give you one hint. Now fast forward to 1994, Ford and International introduced for the very first time the Power Stroke. Now this engine had 210 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque. Okay, so those numbers do not sound big in today's perspective. Those were big numbers back then because keep in mind the Ferrari F50 only generated 347 pound-feet of torque at 6,500 RPMs. The purpose of this video today is for me to do a quick walk around of this 2000 Ford F350, but I also want to ask the question, new diesel or used diesel? I'm going to answer these questions throughout the video, but I want to hear from you guys too. Whether you bought a new diesel or used diesel, in the comment section, let us know why you chose that truck over a new or vice versa. Let's get back to the video. Alright guys, so we're going to take a quick drive in the 2000 Ford F350. My father-in-law is right here. So I have not driven an older truck in a while. This is pretty comfortable so far at low speeds. It is loud though. You can hear that big old diesel engine.
It's like driving in a Cadillac, Justin. It's that comfortable.
Yeah, we're gonna
bounce around. It feels good.
Hey, this is a man's truck.
Get your bowels ready and stuff.
Hey, back in the day, they did leaf springs on the front. That's how much I cared about comfort in truck.
Yep.
So this has an aftermarket exhaust and downpipe up in too, right?
Sure.
So it makes it a little bit louder. I do like how loud. I love that diesel smell. This brings me back to better times, doesn't it? All right, guys. So this is going to be a 2000 model year Ford F350. Now this was redesigned in 1999, and they did do some enhancements on the Power Stroke at that time too. So for 2000, not much has changed. This is going to be an XLT. They had an XL, XLT, which is this one, and then they had a Lariat, which was the top of the line. Now, as you guys know, for this model year 2020, they have a Platinum, a King Ranch, and they have a Limited. So there's definitely a lot more luxury features you can get on the truck. So taking a look under the hood, this is going to be a 7.3 liter 16 valve V8 Power Stroke. Now this is going to have 235 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. You could get a manual transmission on this truck back then. Now obviously today Ford decided to cut that a while ago, but there is a 4R100 4-speed transmission inside this truck. Now if you guys got a XLT trim package, you would get chrome bumpers. Now these headlights are actually from a later model. You did get a chrome bumper. Now if you got the XL, that was going to be the work truck, so it's all going to be black on the front end. You probably got a different style wheel. These are going to be a slight upgrade from the XL, and you are going to have cloth seats as opposed to vinyl seats too. Now taking a look at the suspension up front, this is riding on a leaf spring setup here. You do have a shock absorber also. Now for 2000, this did have 5 leaf springs. Now they did not do any overload leaf springs for this truck back then, but as you guys know, later on they started adding that to give you more stability on the road. But overall, like I said, I mean, would you say that this truck towed pretty well? I mean, you were towing about 12,000, 12.5?
Yeah, about 12.5. It towed great. I mean, I was going through the mountains out west, up to 9,000 feet, especially in Yellowstone area, and I was passing most tractor trailers and other bigger fifth wheels. I was doing 50 where they were doing 35, so it gave me no problem at all. I towed East Coast, West Coast, all the way up into Canada, and had no issue whatsoever with around 12,500 pounds, maybe even a little more.
Nice. Now out back, this is a 6 foot.
6'8"?
6'6", 6'8". I'll put it in the comment section. I can't remember either. But you did add in the puck system down. The people who own this truck, I'll have him go everything for you guys in a little bit. But the people who owned this truck before did not tow any gooseneck or fifth wheel trailer with this. So this was added. My father-in-law added it to the truck after the fact. But so far, I mean, this is pretty much all basic stuff here. I mean, it did come with the plug when he did install this. And oh my gosh, this I forgot how heavy the tailgates were back then. There's no assist there. I will say, even for the 2020s, they're pretty heavy still.
Really?
Yeah, for the Fords they are. I mean, when I do reviews on them, I do notice that they're a little heavier than what I'm used to from Ram and Chevy. Nicely, the underbody has held up. All right, guys, so I'm on the highway. I'll give it a little bit of gas. 30, 35, 40, 50, 55, 60. There we go. Got a little bit of a blow-off valve too in there, huh? So you have an aftermarket intake too, so
That's right.
So it has like a little bit more of a circulation sound. But guys, I'll be honest, this is pretty comfortable. It has enough power to get up to speed. I mean, I don't feel like it stutters or anything. There's no lights on the dash. It has 175,000 miles. This International was a beast back then.
Yep.
7.3 liter. A big old engine. So my father-in-law Dana, he did say that the turning radius on this truck isn't that good.
Right.
And a lot of people do complain online, you said, about the holders inside of here. I think that was every car back in the early 2000s,
That's true.
late 90s. I felt like that was like an afterthought. I mean, the half cup holder was like a huge thing. I feel like no one really, it seems like manufacturers didn't really care about them.
Right.
But now you have cup holders everywhere.
And they're deeper.
Yes.
And made to snug in the cup instead of having it spill out of your 32 ounce whatever slush.
Yeah. I do like having a bench seat actually too.
It's nice.
I'm gonna have to look into this next time I buy a truck. Yeah. So we're gonna get back on the highway. I'm gonna check out the brakes, and then I'm going to kind of talk a little bit more about just how this truck handles overall. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So as you know, I do own a newer diesel. So here are the reasons why I would pick a new diesel over a used one. The very first thing on my list is why I would pick a new diesel is diesel exhaust brake. This was probably the biggest reason why I did not choose a gas truck and why I would choose a newer diesel over an older diesel. The next thing on my list is no integrated trailer brake came with older diesels also. So if you wanted that feature, you had to go to an aftermarket store. Now staying on the same subject is a fifth wheel prep package. If you had a gooseneck trailer or if you had a fifth wheel, back in the day, you had to get these things done aftermarketly because the manufacturers did not offer these things as an option. Up next on my list is a variable geometry turbocharger. Now this is not new technology, but a lot of the newer trucks have this. Now the difference between this and the older truck is turbo lag. On the newer trucks, typically that power comes on instantaneously, and that's because the turbo kicks in a lot quicker because of the vanes in a variable geometry turbocharger. Next thing on my list is safety. Back in the day, trucks weren't as safe as they are today. If you think about the airbags and the electronic stability control, all these things that come into play, even think about lighting. Look how much better lighting is today than it was just 20 years ago. And these are the reasons why I would choose a newer diesel over a used one. Up next is reliability. Now, I know this might be a little controversial for some of you guys because I already know what you're going to type, but overall, the diesels today have fixed a lot of bugs that in the past the trucks had. Up next is on a newer diesel, you're the only owner of the truck. However, if you buy a used truck, you have to worry about all the multiple owners that potentially had a truck before you, which means there could have been some neglect, there could have been some modifications done to the truck, or the truck just wasn't taken care of at all. The only thing I really noticed about this truck is that it does have a little bit of road noise and a little bit of wind noise too. And I will say back then, handling was not a priority back then. This truck,
Nope.
It definitely handles like a truck. It is stiff. It's just not uncomfortably stiff.
Yeah.
Now, did you put new shocks on the truck?
No.
No? So it has original. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, man, the truck holds its speed well. I mean, I feel like the engine feels really strong with 175,000 miles. I I mean, I would definitely take this. Now, you took this truck cross country. Now, we're going to talk about some of the issues you had overall with this truck doing that.
Right.
But for the most part, the truck did well, right?
Did great. Wow. Never left me stranded. Never gave me any problem towing. Yeah, for the most part, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I had total confidence in it. We'll do it again in a minute.
Taking a look inside the interior, a lot of things actually were optional. For example, if you want a keyless entry on the XLT, it did come as an option. Power seats did come available, and then you would get an upgraded cloth seat. Power windows and door locks was actually something that you got too. An XL model did not come with these features. Another feature that was typically optional back in the day was a CD player. So if you wanted a CD player, you had to opt for it. Now you do have your basic climate control here. If you did step up to the Lariat, which was the top of the line, you would get leather seats, you would get wood trim, and it would add a heated seat option too for the truck. But overall, like I said, the XLT was a pretty basic truck. It just gave you pretty much everything standard that you needed to get through your day in a truck if you're towing or hauling something. Taking a look on the side here, you do have two cup holders that do slide out, and it comes with an ashtray just below. And there is a lot of hard plastics inside, which was pretty typical for trucks back then too. You do have a center console, and if you did not need to use it, you could put an additional person up front. It does have a handle on the side that you have to pull down to open it, and it gives you pretty much plenty of storage. That's something I will say about trucks back in the day. They've always been pretty good at giving you storage space inside the truck. Now out back, as you guys can see, things get even a little bit more basic, but that's a good thing because, as you know, if you're looking to tow something heavy, you're gonna have a lot more payload capacity. But you have just a regular standard bench too. It does not look like it does fold up, but it looks like this piece here will fold flat. So if you pull this handle, the seat does go back just enough to put things behind the seat here. And if you wanted to slide things underneath the back seats, you could. They just wouldn't be secure. Just keep that in mind. And it did give you two cup holders in the center. So here are a few repair bills for the truck. I mean, these are just very small things. This was just for the power steering pump, and then they flushed it also. Now the next thing that you're going to see is just a few other small items that were done to the truck. The biggest one you're going to see on this was actually the second largest bill for the truck. But the next one here was for the turbo, and this was about I think it was just under $2,400, as you guys can see. Alright, so here's the reason why I would pick a used diesel over a new one. Now you guys don't know this. When I first originally was in the market to buy a truck, I was looking at 05, 06, 59 Cummins. Those are the only trucks I was looking at first because I wanted to avoid the newer diesels. And as you guys know, the 59 was pretty bulletproof. Now, here's my list of reasons why I would pick a used. Let's go through it. Number one, manual transmission. It was a lot easier to get a manual transmission Cummins back then than it is now. As you know, in 2019, they stopped making a Cummins with a manual transmission. 2018 was the last year you can get one. Next on the list is obviously cost. I mean, you can save yourself $30,000, if not more, by buying an older truck, especially 2007 or and earlier. Up next, parts are going to be cheaper. Even if you have issues with your diesel engines from 05, 06, or even earlier, there's a lot more parts on the market, and you can go to the junkyard to get a part for your truck if you need to. Now, this is a little controversial, but I do miss, because when I was driving my father-in-law's truck, I do miss how loud it was, and I miss that diesel smell. That diesel smell is just, I actually love that smell. I could get kind of high off of it. But today, if you're not familiar, the diesels today smell like water. So up next, there's a larger aftermarket presence too. So if you want to modify your trucks and get downpipes, things like that, things are a lot cheaper for those trucks, and they're a lot more easier to tune. So if you're looking at newer diesels, that's going to be an issue for you. Now the next thing is, for me, overall maintenance costs. I feel like maintenance on my truck is not too bad because I got a maintenance package for free at my dealership. But if I had to pay for my oil changes and things like that, I would be a little ticked off because I think my oil change like $150, and I changed my own fuel filters. But the fuel filters, there's two, they can cost you almost $130 for both of them to change on a newer diesel. Now here's just the one that you guys knew was coming. No DPF, which is diesel particulate filter. No DEF, which is diesel exhaust fluid. And no EGR, which is exhaust gas recirculation. This is the reason why most guys have decided to stick with older diesels, because you do not have to worry about these emissions crap on our trucks. And this is why the newer diesels are not reliable. Now, if you think about the engines and transmissions, you're not going to have as much problems with those things if you take off the emissions crap. So most of the guys that have deleted their trucks have had no issues with them, or have never had issues with their truck from deleting them. Last but not least, the longevity for older diesel is proven. So we all know that that engine will run 4, 5, 6, 7, or even up to 1 million miles. So if you are in the market for a diesel that's older and it has a few 100,000 miles on it, that's nothing. That truck can run for years and years and years. I'm driving a little bit over 60 miles an hour. I'm about 1,750 RPMs right now. But overall, I'm going to check out the brakes here in a second. The turn right up here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the brakes feel nice. Did you replace the brakes?
Front calipers and brakes were replaced.
Okay. Alright, so let's check out this
25,000 miles ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, this
That felt like a truck.
Yeah, it's a truck.
Felt like a truck, yeah.
It's a truck. Taking a look at the numbers, this truck does have a front gross axle weight rating of 4,800 pounds. The rear is going to be 6,830 pounds. Total GVWR is going to be 9,900 pounds also. Alright guys, so in the end, I think that if I was looking at new and used again, I would probably still just go ahead and get a newer diesel. And just a few reasons why is towing capacity. Just taking a look at the numbers now, this is going to be for a single rear wheel F350. It's 13,000 pounds for the 7.3 liter diesel. And that's with a 373 axle. That's the truck that we just looked at. That's what the axle ratio was. I don't think I mentioned that. Now, if you look at the newer diesels, 355 axle, check out towing capacity for these trucks. I mean, this is the exact same truck, 4-wheel drive, 6 3/4 box. This is a huge difference. I mean, if you're looking at these numbers, you're gonna have to make sure you do your research, because this is with optional equipment or with a tow prep package or whatever the case is. So you're gonna have to go through this list. I will say this is a little bit more harder to read, because each number you have to just go through and look at these little small numbers and see what this all means. So you're gonna have to really take your time and really understand this. But even though you have a lot more emissions issues that could potentially arise, I think that the trucks are starting to become more reliable, because these trucks have had these systems a lot longer. And I've heard of guys who do hot shot work who've had no problems with the emission stuff, and they had over 150 to 200,000 miles on the trucks. But if you take care of your truck, obviously it's gonna take care of you. But if you like the idea of not having all this stuff on your truck, if you don't really need the technology, and hey, if you're only driving the truck a couple times a month, by all means, I think an older diesel is the way to go. But for me, I think I would still choose the newer diesel. But I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.